It's a double standard. You wanted me and the rest of the African American Muslim community to just accept his apology and keep it moving. I'm sorry, you got the wrong person. It doesn't work like that. You don't get to dictate the narrative. You don't get to dictate how this situation goes. The scholars, they say, أن الكلمة قبل أن تخرج تملكها وإذا خرجت تملكك. That before the word leaves your mouth, you control it. Once the word leaves your mouth, it controls you. You don't have any control over how the situation is going to play out. You don't get to sit back and micromanage other people's feelings. You don't get to micromanage how people are going to handle it. I had brothers sending me messages from a brother from Canada. Oh, the Somali brother said, you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't say that. Man, miss me with all of that. Don't sit here and tell me what I can say and what I can't say. You don't own the narrative. Your Imam Saeed, put the whole entire Somali community in a very vulnerable situation. You don't get a chance to control the narrative and how somebody is going to respond to that. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It came out of his mouth. How people decide to respond to that, you got to wear every bit of that. I'm sorry, I don't know how else you wanted that to go. You wanted Somalis to be able to walk away from the situation unscathed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. He disrespected an entire, degraded and humiliated an entire race of people, man, on a minbar on Friday in front of the whole community, and then posted that shit on YouTube. Posted it on YouTube, had hundreds of views and likes, and not a damn soul from amongst y'all posted anything until I posted it on my page and started to bring attention to it. Yeah, you might have advised Saeed behind closed doors, but you ain't saying nothing in public to the African Americans who were offended by what he said. You ain't say a damn thing in public because you want to tuck it under the rug. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You don't get to tuck that under the rug. Oh, well, the Somali sisters have been advising Sheikh Saeed. Maybe you did advise him. Maybe you did advise him. But nobody, even, what's his name? Abdul Aziz, who goes out, mashallah, and does this whole thick video. I'm a fasik because I didn't bring you any proof or whatever. Did you do a video when Sheikh Saeed said what he said? When it was brought to your attention that Sheikh Saeed said what he said about African Americans, did you do a video and call him a fasik? I have one question. Did Abdul Aziz, whoever you are, I don't even know who you are, whoever you are, student of knowledge, whatever, got you. Did you do a video and call Sheikh Saeed a fasik because he did not produce any proof for his comments about African Americans? But you will do a video and say to Shadid Muhammad that he's a fasik, his riwayah, his shahada is rejected for life, condemned to hell, because I didn't produce you some stats that says that there is, high rates of, prostitution amongst Somalis. MashaAllah. So let me continue with my point, man. As people connected to cultures with traditions and habits, some good, some bad, we should always exercise caution when we are addressing or pointing out the negative or social dysfunctional behaviors that others, have, because it might be an insult to your own culture. You might be insulting your own culture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawm. O you who believe, let not one of you mock another. Let not one group from amongst you make mockery of another. When Sheikh Saeed got on the minbar and he said so callously, so freely, right, that African Americans don't even know who their fathers are. If you were to ask them, they'll tell you, I don't even know who my dad is. Look at the people on the musalla laughing and giggling. It was a big joke. It was a joke. Now, I know that some of you are saying, well, that's Sheikh Saeed. The whole Somali community wasn't in support of that. But when he jumped out there and he insulted somebody else's culture, you had to know that a person responding back may not exercise the same type of, the same type of caution. The person responding back is human. They may not exercise the same type of caution. They're human. I just watched you on a YouTube video with hundreds of views, you making a mockery of, of an issue, a social dysfunctional issue that we have in the African American community, and you made a mockery on the minbar for your own purpose, for your own, agenda, for whatever reason you said it. I don't know. I talked to Sheikh Saeed this morning, and he said, Wallahi, Shadi, I don't even know why. I don't even remember saying it. And that might be possible. Shaitan comes in and, twist your words. But at the same token, you're watching people laugh and joke and make fun of it. And then you even have Somalis on Facebook today saying, I don't see what the problem is. Sheikh Saeed was just stating facts. It's a fact. It's a fact that most African Americans don't even know who their fathers are. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawm. O you who believe, let not one group from amongst you make a mockery of another group. Asa an yakunu khayran minhum. Perhaps the ones that you are making mockery of are better than the ones that are mocking them. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, La'ana Allahu man la'ana walidayn. May Allah curse the one who curses his two parents. May Allah curse the one who curses his two parents. The Sahaba asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, wa kayfa yal'anu rajul waliday? How would a man, insult his own parents? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Yasubbu ar-rajul aba ar-rajuli fa yasubbu abahu wa yasubbu ummahu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the man will insult the father of another man, and then that man will in turn insult him and his mother. You see the transgression. He will insult him and his mother. But who's to blame for that? The blame is not Shadid Muhammad. The one that you guys need to be taking issue with is Sheikh Saeed. Take issue with Sheikh Saeed, because none of this would have ever transpired had he not opened his mouth regarding my culture, regarding people that look like me and come from the struggle that I come from. He called my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, my family members, my sisters, he called us a bunch of whores. That's what his words translate to mean. That mu'zamuhum, he said, kulluhum bal mu'zamuhum, all of them, no, most of them, abna'u zina, are children of fornication and adultery. So what is that saying about our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers? Don't you know that black women have been the subject of, humiliation for the longest time since we've been in America? I mean, they created tools that they use in the hospital right now, experimenting on black women. You understand? Experimenting on black women. And then you have an imam get on a minbar and call us a whole tribe, a whole generation, a whole nation of children from fornication and adultery. What does that translate? What are you saying about our mothers? What are you saying about our mothers? Nah, man, you don't get that. Black women in this country have been through too much for us to become Muslim and then to allow somebody to get on the minbar and disrespect our women on the minbar on Friday in front of a congregation and then post the damn video on YouTube. La wallahi, not on my watch, man. After I'm dead and gone, y'all can say whatever the hell y'all want. I don't know what these cowards behind me gonna say. I don't know, and I don't care. But as long as I'm alive and I have a platform and I can speak my piece, ain't no way in the hell I'm gonna let you disrespect mine. It's not gonna happen. The same way you guys felt like, oh, Shadid Muhammad was attacking Somali women and you guys went buck ape over that, the same way I'm gonna go buck ape over mine, man. I'm not gonna get on the minbar and disrespect my culture, disrespect my mother, disrespect. And then I talked to Sheikh Saeed this morning. This man had the audacity to say to me, I was referring to non-Muslims. As if that makes it any better. As if that makes it any better. I said, Sheikh Saeed, when you say, oh, I was referring to the non-Muslims, who the hell else are the non-Muslims except my mother? My mother, although deceased, my mother's a non-Muslim. My mother didn't accept Islam. My grandmother, non-Muslim. Who are you referring to? Why do you think, oh, I was referring to non-Muslims, as if that makes it any better? That doesn't make it better. Abdul Aziz, you said the same thing. Oh, Sheikh Saeed said that, his comment was related to the non-Muslims, as if that makes it better. You a student of knowledge, and you co-sign that, you validate that. You validate that. You said, this man said to me this morning on the phone, I wasn't referring to Muslims, I was referring to non-Muslims. As if that makes it okay to say that all non-Muslims, most non-Muslims are the children of Zina. So what? All right, I'm a convert to Islam. So you're still talking about my mother? You're still talking about my sister? But the point that I'm making is that the Prophet ﷺ said, "La'an Allahu man sabba waliday." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses the man who curses his own parents. Meaning, you speak ill about somebody's parents, and then they in turn speak ill about your parents. Well, you was the sabab. You were the reason. This behavior alone of, mentioning African Americans in this light is a pre-Islamic ignorant behavior. It has no place in Islam whatsoever, especially in the current climate of open racism on African Americans here in America. I don't know about Canada, but here in America, people are on edge. People get knocked out. White people get knocked out all the time for shouting at an African American, calling him a nigger. We have PTSD. We have battle stress at this point. Everybody is on edge, and then to have an imam, get on the minbar and say that about African Americans, obviously, man, you're gonna trigger something. You're gonna trigger something without a doubt. And once that happens, once you trigger something, you don't get to sit back and try to micromanage how deeply that's going to affect you or deeply going to affect, your community. You did it, and you got to deal with the consequences that come along with that. Nonetheless, we're living in a very, open racism. People calling us niggas to our face, police officers killing us, killing our women, and then you got a Muslim imam who gets on the minbar and calls, us children of, fornication and adultery, and then have the whole community laugh at it. Nah, that's not going to be taken lightly, man. That's not going to be, oh, I apologize, and now, business as usual. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. All right? So it struck a nerve. And believe it or not, it's not so much what Sheikh Saeed said. It was pretty much the laughter of the congregation and the comments that I've seen on social media that, are a testament to the acceptance of these gross and vile depictions of African Americans, a whole entire race of people upon the backs of whom such a comment was even possible. That if it wasn't for African Americans, you wouldn't even be able to mount the minbar and make the comment that you made about us. We made it possible. We made it cool to be Muslim in America. When immigrants migrated here, whether from the Arab community or from the Desi community, they didn't hit the streets and start spreading Islam. That came from Muslims, African American Muslims, whether it was traditional Sunni Muslims or it was the Nation of Islam and their understanding of what Islam was. And Muhammad Ali, making the name Muhammad cool. You understand? Only to have Muslims today who shorten their name to Mo because you don't want to be called Muhammad. Like, we paved the way for you to do that. And then you get on the minbar on the backs of the very same people who paved the way for you to practice Islam in America, and you disrespect a whole nation of people, and you think that a simple apology was just going to solve that problem. La yusminu wa la yughni min ju'. Yeah, la yusminu wa la yughni min ju'. It's not going to suffice. My comment about the high rates of prostitution, exaggeration, overstatement, due to the intensity of the situation. And I take full responsibility for that, without a doubt. I take full responsibility for that. Does prostitution exist among Somalis? Yes, it does, as well as it does amongst other groups. You are not exempt from it. You're not impervious to it. It exists. And the only reason that I stated that was to level the playing field. Two wrongs don't make it right, but it damn sure make us equal. You understand? Two wrongs don't make a right, but it damn sure make us equal, because you don't get to run with the narrative that, oh, I apologize. But I still believe that y'all a bunch of children from fornication. Y'all a bunch of bastard children who don't even know y'all fathers. I apologize for saying it, but I still believe it. You don't get to walk away with that. You don't get to just apologize and walk away with it. So my comment was not a response to that. My comment was to kind of just level the playing field, to say, hey, you guys have the same problems that we have. You have the same issues that we have. The same social dysfunction, social dysfunctional behavior. We have it, you have it. Don't set yourself aside from us as if you are better than us. And many of you do believe that you are better than us, and that's the problem. That's the problem. All right? Obviously, it doesn't apply to all Somali women. I had brothers messaging me saying, oh, you disrespected all Somali women. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like I'm dealing with the Salafis. Wallah al-Azim. This whole interaction, it puts me back in this place where I'm dealing with the Salafis. It's like you criticize one Salafi, you criticizing all the Salafis. Oh, he has an issue with the Salafi. Now, I don't have an issue with the Salafis. I have an issue with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals from amongst you who call themselves Salafi. I don't have an issue with all of the Salafis. But what you do is you generalize it to embellish the situation, to make the person look more like a bad guy, more like a freaking criminal. He has an issue with the Salafis. I don't have an issue with the Salafis. I can call their names out. I got issue with specific individuals who ascribe to the methodology of Salafiyah. I don't call them Salafis because I don't believe that they are practicing the methodology of the Salaf as it should be. They ascribe to the methodology of the Salaf. I don't have a problem with all of the Salafis. Just like I don't have a problem with all of the Somalis. He disrespected all of the Somali women, and he disrespected chaste women. Obviously, if a woman is engaging in promiscuous behavior, if a woman is engaging in, prostitution, she's not a chaste woman. So I'm not referring to mothers who are at home taking care of their children. I'm not accusing mothers, Somali women who are at home fearing Allah, praying, taking care of their children, raising their families. I'm not accusing them of prostitution. So how did you get that from that? I don't understand. How did you go from that to that? Because you want to make me look more like a bigger criminal. You want to get your point across. You want to embellish, to fakhim al-amr. Why am I Jews? That's not who I am. I don't hate women. If anyone knows, if you were from the African American community, then you would have, the privilege of having someone like me defend you. Because any African American woman who's a Muslim knows that I go hard for the African American Muslim woman. I go hard. I take a lot of criticism. I take a lot of heat from Muslim men as a result of how hard I go for the sisters. Because I see the aftermath. I deal with the divorce. I deal with the crying. I deal with the counseling. I deal with that on a day-to-day basis. I see it firsthand. So obviously there's a soft spot. And perhaps maybe the Somali sisters are not aware of my track record. They're not aware of my modus operandi and how I function. And I'm sorry that you didn't get a chance to see me in my element, and you allow somebody to paint me in a portrait that is not accurate. I'm sorry. I really am. But anyone who knows me knows that I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. If anything, I'm trying to protect you. I mentioned what I mentioned to level the playing field, to show that you guys are not impervious to the same social dysfunction that you defined us, and your imam defined us. And yes, you did take issue with him for it. So obviously it doesn't apply to all Somali women, because that's not the reality, nor was it what was implied by my words. But to use my comment to discredit my entire lecture and to disrespect me by the comments that was left on my Instagram page, my Facebook page, my YouTube page. Wallah al-Azim, I am appealing to you, brothers and sisters from the Somali community. If you have any respect for Islam, you will go and you will remove those comments. If you have any respect for Islam, you don't have to respect me. That's okay. You don't like me, get in line. There's tons of people who don't like me. That's okay. That's okay. Have enough respect for Islam to not disrespect me publicly and open like that and allow non-Muslims to see that. When Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was stabbed while he prayed Salatul Fajr with the Jama'ah, he told one of the Sahaba, go find out who was responsible for stabbing me. And when they came back and they told him who it was, Abu Lu'lu'ah, Fayruz, Ghulam al-Mughira, he was the slave, the servant of Mughira ibn Shu'bah, who was a non-Muslim living in Medina at the time. Blacksmith, used to make weapons for the Sahaba, and he stabbed Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. When the Sahaba came back and told him who it was that stabbed him, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Alhamdulillah alladhi lam yaj'al mitati ala yadi rajulin yadda'i al-Islam. He said, all praise is due to Allah who did not make my death at the hands of a man who claims to be a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Because what would people think if Muslims kill their own leaders? What would non-Muslims think? This is why the Prophet ﷺ gave a pass to one of the hypocrites who told the Prophet ﷺ in public, fear Allah, O Muhammad. And some of the Sahaba said, let me cut his head off, O Messenger of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, inni akhafu an yakul an-nas anna Muhammadan yaqtulu ashaba. I fear that people will say Muhammad kills his companions. That man wasn't his companion. But the outside world didn't know that. The outside world didn't know that. By the time the news reached them, they would think, oh, Muhammad kills his own companions. Who wants to follow a religion where the leader kills his own companions? Who wants to follow a religion where, the Muslims who are supposed to be one ummah, one brotherhood, you use this type of vile and disrespectful language in public and you don't care who see it? احترم نفسك. Have some respect for yourself. Have some respect for Islam. You don't have to respect me. That's cool. Deep down inside, you can feel you're entitled to feel however you want to feel about me. I'm okay with that. But respect Islam enough not to disrespect another Muslim in public and have other people see that and then use that as a means or use that as an excuse not to become Muslim. Do you want that on your scales, Yawm al-Qiyamah? You want somebody to say, I didn't accept Islam because of your behavior? How I saw you treating other Muslims, how I saw you, talking to other Muslims. Why would I want to accept a religion and I see that that's what you guys are doing? That's a dangerous place to be. So, in ending, it's not really, a lot that I need to say after this, man. The Prophet ﷺ, he addressed, social issues in his community. He left it general. The Muhajirin, the Ansar, Al-Aws, Wal-Khazraj, none of them took issue with it. He addressed it general. مَا بَالُ أَقْوَامًا يَفْعَلُونَ كَذَا وَيَفْعَلُونَ كَذَا. When he got on the minbar, he would say, what's wrong with the people that they do this, they do this? And even if it was a cultural issue that was related to a particular tribe, nobody took issue with it. Nobody said, oh, he's disrespecting this whole tribe because you call out an issue. That becomes a problem. Wallah al-Azim, I seen a brother on Facebook today who wrote something that was so honest. He said, I don't understand why. He said, yeah, high rates, yes, that's an overstatement. He said, but does prostitution doesn't exist? He said, yes, it does exist. It exists in Houston, in Dallas, Texas. It exists in Toronto. It exists in Atlanta. It exists in other places. High rates, yes, that might be an overstatement, but it does exist. He said, and the fact that he's stating it, maybe it should just give us something deeper to look at within our community rather than attacking the man for pointing out something that should be obvious to us. So rather than dealing with the issue, you want to ease your comfort by playing this, oh, well, you disrespected. I didn't disrespect all Somalis. If you took it as disrespect, my apologies. It wasn't intended to be disrespectful. But this is the repercussion of an imam from your community getting on the minbar and mentioning somebody else's culture, with no regard. Talking about their mothers with no regard. there's going to be repercussions to that. And I'm sorry that it had to come to that point, but I mean, we're dealing with it now. Hopefully, I mean, you guys are free. I'm done with this. Period. This has taken me so far out of my comfort zone. So far out of my comfort zone, literally. It almost puts me back in a place where I'm, battling with the Salafis and going back and forth. It puts me right back in this space, and it's really emotionally draining. It really is. To have people just misconstrue your words intentionally because they don't want to deal with the reality of what you're actually saying. And that's the Salafis 101. That is their methodology, has been for the longest. Twist your words, change your words, because they just don't want to deal with the reality that is staring them right in their face. And here we are, So you don't get to control the narrative with you should have done this. People saying, oh, you should have called Sheikh Saeed. You shouldn't be dealing with this in public. Oh, you should have just accepted his apology. Oh, you should have did this and you should have this. You don't get to dictate to me how I handle my situation. You don't. Islam dictates to me how I should handle it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does says in the Quran, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم وكان الله سميعا عليما. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah does not like public displays of evil, except in the case where a person has been wronged. Right has been infringed on. Don't compare what I say to Sheikh Saeed. Don't say, oh, you're one and the same. We're not one and the same. Wallah al-Azim, we're not one and the same. There's not a comparison because there is no comparison. He got on the minbar and called an entire race of people bastards and called their mother whores. And then, had the congregation laughing at it. I simply stated that there are high rates of prostitution among Somalis. That's not an indictment on the whole Somali community. That's not an indictment on the whole entire Somali community. Come on. How are you going to equate one with the other? Malakum kayfa tahkumun. What's wrong with you and how you judge the situation? Are you serious? And, this is what we're dealing with, man. I'm going to end with this hadith, and we'll be done with this, man. Imam al-Bayhaqi, as well as Ibn Majah, they mention on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, رضي الله عنه, قال جاء أعرابي إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتقاضاه دينا كان عليه فاشتد عليه حتى قال له أحرج عليك إلا قضيتني يعني حقي فانتهره أصحابه وقالوا ويحق تدري من تتكلم فقال إني أطلب حقي فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هل مع صاحب الحق كنتم ثم أرسل إلى خولة بنت قيس فقال لها إن كان عندك تمر فأقرضيني حتى يأتينا تمرنا فنقضيك فقالت نعم بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول الله. Ibn Majah, as well as Bayhaqi, they mentioned on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, that an Arabi, a Bedouin, came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam yataqadahu daynan, asking the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to repay a debt that he owed him. This is our messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, owing a man something, owing a right to someone. Pay attention to the hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam owed somebody money, a Bedouin who came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was very rough with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَاشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِ, and he became very, belligerent, very, rough with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, until he said, by Allah, pay me what you owe me. Pay me what you owe me. He's talking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Pay me what you owe me. And the Sahaba got up to go defend the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and back the man off of him. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they said to the man, "Wayhak, woe be to you. Tadri man tatakallam? Do you know who you're talking to?" And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to the Sahaba after the man says, "Inni atlubu haqqi." minhu. I'm just trying to get my right from this man. They saw him as the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the Bedouins, they had a different demeanor. They were very rough, very rigid, and they didn't really see social status. They didn't have that type of, discernment. All right. He wants his right. So he's in the Prophet's face and he's being very, insulting, raising his voice at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba come up to him and said, yo, you know who you're talking to? The man says, I just want my right from him. And the Prophet ﷺ turned to the Sahaba and he said, you stand on the side of the one that you owe a right to. Stand on the side of the one that the right is due to. Meaning, don't stop him from saying what he needs to say. I owe him. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, Sahib al-haq lahu maqala. The person who you owe a right to, they have a right to get angry. They have a right to shout at you. They have a right to say something to you that might hurt your feelings. You don't get a right to disrespect somebody and then turn around and say, oh, you hurt my feelings, so I'm going to troll you on Twitter. I'm going to troll you on Instagram. I'm going to troll you on Facebook because you said something that hurt my feelings. Well, damn it, you said something that hurt my feelings first. You don't get a right to, the right that was taken was from me and my community. You stand in solidarity with the one whose haqq was taken, despite the fact that they might utter something that makes you uncomfortable. They're angry, they're upset. It's an intense situation. The Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba, you stand on the side of the one that the right is due to. You don't stop him. Let him say what he needs to say. You don't get to control the narrative. You don't get to control how I respond. Oh, you should have talked to him privately. Talking to him privately, as I told Sheikh Saeed earlier this morning, that's a courtesy, man. Min fada'il al-a'mal. That's a courtesy. If I decide to extend that to you, I don't have to speak to you on the side, especially for a comment that you made in public. Not only did you make it in public, you posted the video on YouTube. Even more public. The YouTube video had hundreds of likes and views and, you know what I mean? And now somebody says something that, could be misinterpreted this way or that way, and now y'all all in y'all feelings. You have got to be kidding me. This has to be a sick joke, man. We are the ones that the haqq was taken from. And no, that didn't give me a right to disrespect you guys back, and nor was that in my intention. But in addressing the issue, yeah, it gets a little tense. I said to you while I was doing the video, it's not easy to address something so delicate. It's not for anybody. It's not easy. So yeah, there might be a slip here, a slip there. There might be, something exaggerated. There might, because there's emotion attached to it. Stop saying, this is another thing. Stop saying, oh, it's emotional. God damn it, what are we other than human beings who have emotions? Stop saying it's emotional because it's dismissive. Who in the world addresses something so delicate minus the emotion? What are we, robots? What are we, robots? Where do we get this idea? Oh, that's an emotional response. Well, God damn it, I'm emotional. I'm a human being. What else is it going to be? A robotic response? That's what you want? Push a couple of buttons and then you get the response that you want. I'm sorry, we're human beings. We haven't gotten to that point yet. Eventually we will. But right now, we still function like humans. Many of us, we still function like humans. There's emotion attached to, feelings attached to words. That's how we function. When you say to someone, I love you, there's an emotion that is connected to that. And a person can feel that energy when you say it and you mean it. Just like when you say, I'm sorry, right? An apology. Don't sit here and say, oh, you should have just accepted his apology. You don't get to determine that. You should have just accepted his apology and just kept it pushing. MashaAllah. After what you said, I'm supposed to just, but here again, this is a double standard. Because for African Americans, that's who we are anyway. So you should just accept the apology and keep it pushing. Right? That's the double standard of how we are dealt with. Just like Abu Abdul Aziz, you did a whole video, I'm a fasik, my shahada is rejected. That's cool, man. That's cool. You can reject my shahada, I'm a fasik, that's cool. Did you say the same thing to Sheikh Saeed? I'll wait. Did you call Sheikh Saeed a fasik? Did you tell him that his shahada was rejected? Just curious. Because there's a double standard. And if you're basing off of what Sheikh Yusuf Rio said about him, and so this is your get back. This is your loyalty to your community. This is your loyalty to your culture. But let me give you a thing or two about being a student of knowledge. If you can't function with impartiality, you ain't gonna never amount to much as a student of knowledge, because your loyalty can always be bought. Your loyalty can always be bought. Your soul can always be bought. And the only way that you can, be a true student of knowledge is when you can stand in an impartial manner, not partial to anybody, not biased towards anything or anyone except the haq. The Prophet ﷺ said, Waymullah, lo anna Fatima bintu Muhammad sariqat laqata'tu yadaha. He said, I swear by Allah, if Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, was to steal, I would cut her hand off. Not I would order somebody to do it because I can't do it myself. I would cut her hand off. So if someone from your community, imam from your community, utter the same comment, the same mistake, then you should be able to be man enough and impartial enough to say the same damn thing to him. And if you can't, then you ain't fit to be no student of knowledge, because your partiality can always be bought. You can always be swayed in this way and that way. You can stand on your own 2 feet and speak truth to power. I don't give a damn who it is. That is when you become a student of knowledge. Other than that, you swaying, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that wherever way the wind blows, that's where you blow. Someone put pressure on you over here, you go that way. Someone put pressure on you over here, you go that way. Until you learn how to grow your own legs and stand on your own 2 feet, speak truth to power, no matter who it is. All that information, all that knowledge, all that quoting don't mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing. What made Imam Ahmed was because he was able to stand on his own 2 feet, despite seeing many of the scholars who were scholars, his contemporaries, fold under the pressure of the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah saying that the Quran was created. Imam Ahmed stood his ground. I got to be put in prison. I got to be lashed. I'm sorry. And there were even some scholars he didn't even forgive. He never looked at them, never gave them salams again. Because I can't respect you, man. You folded under pressure. That's not what a person of knowledge does. So until you can deal with everybody equally, man, all that information that you have is I hope it works out for you. You might sound good on Instagram and sound good, but you're not impacting no change. You're not affecting any real change in the world. Standing your ground on your own 2 feet, that's when you begin to make people uncomfortable. That is when you know that you're shaking some ground and that you are going to leave behind a legacy. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as in the end of the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told, one of the ladies, Khawla bint Qais, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the lady, do you have any dates? Do you have any bucket of dates? He said, loan me a bucket of dates to pay this man, so until I get some dates and I'll pay you back. And the woman said, Bi abi anta wa ummi ya Rasulullah. May my mother and father be sacrificed for you. Say, no question, O Messenger of Allah, you got it. And the Prophet ﷺ borrowed dates from this woman to pay this man who disrespected him, who the Prophet ﷺ let his disrespect slide because he realized that he was upset and he had a right to be upset. Don't steal my right to be upset. Don't dictate to me or any other African American what we should have done or how we should have accepted the situation. You don't get to hand me a situation on a platter and say, here, this is how you accept it. I'm sorry, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. Getting phone calls and text messages from Canada, oh, don't say this, don't say that. Man, don't put me, I'm going to disappoint you every time. Don't put me in no box, man. Don't put me in a box and tell me what I can say, what I can't say. Let me speak my piece. And we can deal with all of the trivial stuff afterwards. But let me say what I need to say. You struck a nerve. And again, so that we can put it into this. You guys can continue if you want. That you're showing your hand. You're showing exactly who you are. I apologize for my error in that. And I can only own my part in that. But the other African Americans, you know, and everybody else who has to be burdened with the things that you guys said, I think you guys need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go wherever you post it, whatever you posted, and take that stuff down, man. That is my advice to you. Take that stuff down, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be mindful of the day that you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have to be questioned about your words deterring somebody away from Islam. Jazakumullahu khairan. I'm sorry I had to burden you guys on a Tuesday night. You know, it is what it is. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive anyone and everyone that is involved in this. Sheikh Saeed, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you. You couldn't have possibly known that uttering those words on the minbar would create, you know, this amount of problem, this many problems for so many people. It's just really sad, man. And it just speaks volumes to the level of discretion and the level of responsibility that we have to exercise when we're put in positions of leadership. When you mount the minbar, you cannot allow, you know, that situation to go to your head and believe that, you know, you can say whatever you want to say. Exercise discretion, hikmah, wisdom. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa subhanaka lahumma wa bihamdik. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.